6:00, and we will convene Rules and Public Policy. Since we don't yet have our name placards, my name's Annalisa Clear. That is Mary Jo Zorb, Kathy Carrington, and LaTanya Chichester, who are members of the committee. Since we are getting started, attendance is the first thing on the agenda, and everyone is here, so I can confirm that we do have a quorum. And just for my own edification, I can take minutes, but I don't know if historically the vice chair takes minutes. Who normally does that during council committee meetings?
I believe it's in the council rules that the vice chair.
The vice chair, okay. The council rules are quite long.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you ready? I want to make sure that you're good to go. Awesome. Okay. The next item on the agenda is to confirm the agenda. Does anyone have any objections to the agenda or would like to add anything potentially to the agenda?
I'm all good with the agenda.
Okay. I don't know if we formally need to take a vote unless there's
Madam
any
Chair?
objections.
Madam Chair, can I reserve the right to add something to new if
Yeah.
the bug hits me later on? Thank you.
Okay, hearing no objections, we'll move on. For those of us who were on council at the time of the last meeting, we have minutes from the previous Rules and Public Policy Committee, which was held on November 10. Even though I was not on the committee, I do see one minor correction, if I may. The clerk of council is 22, not 23. Other than that, is there anything else on the meeting minutes that anyone sees that would need adjusting before we submit this for final posting?
I'm sorry, say what?
The clerk of council, letter A, it says 23-year resident, it should say 22.
Okay.
Okay, hearing no further amendments, I believe we can accept the minutes then and have them posted.
I have no objection.
Okay. So one thing that I did want to do, and I believe council rules allow for it, is to allow time for public comment if anyone would like to address the Rules and Public Policy Committee. All right, hearing none. Moving right along. Organizational discussion. This is probably going to take up the bulk of the time that we have left. Currently, our meetings are 30 minutes for committees, and we have quite a full agenda. And my concern is that as we move forward and we have additional legislation and things that would require review by this committee, that 30 minutes is not going to be enough time. So I just want this committee to be thinking about that we may adjust the date of this meeting to a different Monday, potentially, so that we can allow enough time. What happens in years past is we end up getting about 2/3 of the way through the agendas, and then we have to stop, for the next meeting, and then it's another month before this team can really dive in and get any work done. So just be thinking about that in the back of your mind as we go through. So the existing committee responsibilities, according to council rules, and I don't believe these are posted publicly anywhere. So just for the edification of those people watching, Rules and Public Policy Committee has about 8 responsibilities that are defined in council rules. They're currently review current codified ordinances and provide verification of compliance with Ohio Revised Code and NCH Charter. From time to time, and as the need arises, committee will recommend necessary changes to the NCH Rules of Council. Number 3, handles matters concerning council procedures and rules. Number 4, Committee of First Contact for Citizens with Public Policy Concerns. Number 5, responsible for revisions and updating of NCH city ordinances. 6, gatekeeper for council memorials. 7, committee for resolution and ordinances as deemed necessary by council and council president. And then the other task is under the miscellaneous to perform any other duties as assigned by the president of council. So those are the current responsibilities of rules and public policy. However, in some of the other committees, and especially looking at the comprehensive plan, there's some gaps that I think could fit in this committee that currently either don't have a home or might be more streamlined if it were in this committee, and that might be something that we discuss in full council. But I just wanted people to be on the committee in particular cognizant that those are our current responsibilities of this committee. So even as we're going through or as council meetings are taking place, if there's current ordinances that are out of date, that need to be streamlined, that need to be updated, that falls under the purview of this committee for review first before it goes to council floor for a vote. And also just generally keeping our eye on our own rules to make sure that they are relevant, appropriate, enforceable, and that they're really helping the city move forward.
Madam President.
Yes.
So in lieu of one of the responsibilities that falls under the committee that you chair, I would ask that council consider this. So you mentioned that Ohio Revised Code and that we, council rules, and are aligned with Ohio Revised Code. A few times I've heard the deviation. So historically, as a city, we have aligned ourselves with Ohio Revised Code. An example of that would be when our city was more restrictive in its fireworks, we aligned with Ohio Revised Code. We actually changed our internal city legislation to align with that, as opposed to going more restrictive, because if someone were to appeal or contest that in a court of law, they're subject to Ohio Revised Code. We're going to lose.
Okay, that's thank you for sharing that. I do remember sitting on that committee when those conversations were taking place. But I do believe that since we are a charter city, there's a mechanism by which cities are allowed in certain circumstances to enact more restrictive laws than the state of Ohio. So Mary Jo, Ms. Zorb.
It's called home rule.
It's called home rule, yes.
Madam Chair.
And under certain circumstances, yes, cities are allowed to be more restrictive because state rules, and they realize this, are not a one-size-fits-all. So,
Right.
Yeah. So in terms of some, the next item on the agenda would be the proposed committee responsibilities. And again, I mentioned there's certain things in the comprehensive plan that need a home. Also, I know that we're going to be doing some zoning changes potentially, and part of that does align with comprehensive plan. But I do remember, I believe, Ms. Dukestein, in a previous council meeting that you and Mr. Wallace had started, I guess, looking at some of these things. Could you, like code enforcement, were you looking at our current ordinances to recommend updates, or what was going to be the process for that?
Yes, we're looking at our current ordinances and an evaluation of where our problem areas are in our ordinances to align. So, for example, we had Doug, who was previously in the role as a part-time individual, and we're finding a lot of areas where we can alter or change, and some things are already there. We just need enforcement. So an update on where we are as a city is we met with Chief Cheney, Mayor's Court, which is right now just Diane, and Mr. Wallace, myself, and the NRO to make sure that there's a clear line from notice of violation to the summons to mayor's court to what we're going to do. And then we're looking at other cities to make sure that ours kind of fit into that. The problem that we have is that when you put a lien on someone's property, you may not collect fees until 10 or 20 years before that person sells. And we don't want money per se, we want compliance. So we're looking at other things that we can do as a city, and then from there we have to go to Scott Ritter and our Chris, which is our magistrate, to make sure that it aligns. And then if there are any changes, and we need to change things on a legislative base, we will bring that before council.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Ms. Dixon, can you confirm if any codes have changed post the hiring of our new code enforcer?
No, they have not changed.
And what mechanism will the city utilize to advise of any changes to our citizens?
Well, we will publish those code changes have to be published publicly, and so we would use that same publisher. I can't remember the name of it right now, but
American Publishing.
yep, Ms. Zorb named it, but it is that publisher. And so that's kind of what you do when it's fully executed to a process of implementation.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So what phase are we in that process?
Well, right now what we're trying to do is implement some of the things that we already have in place that just weren't being executed. So just to see how that works, we do understand that some things will change, but we need to make sure that some of it was just, there was a vacancy in the role as well for almost a year. And then also the inability to capture things because the person was part-time. So when you sandwich those two things together, now we have a full-time person, and actually legitimately going through what we already have, we may be able to not have to focus so much on change in particular areas. So that's what we're trying to do at this moment.
Okay. So I think this kind of exposes the point that this entire discussion really doesn't have a home currently in a council committee. So I think if we're working through, like code enforcement procedures, processes, that this committee could be a resource to help streamline that process, especially if we're trying to get changes to council floor. Because what I've heard a lot in previous meetings is these situations come up. It's like, oh, whose committee wants this? And it's like, if they're coming up frequently or things that are repetitive, especially if there's ordinances involved that are going to need to be updated and changed, that squarely falls into rules and public policy. So I'm thinking that could be something that this is the committee of the home for those kinds of deep dives into those issues.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I would agree. I think in the past we've always funneled it through this committee.
Okay. Yeah, our council rules are silent on that, so that's what I'm thinking. We need to get that nailed down. I think would be very helpful. And then anyone else on the committee, if there's proposed responsibilities that fall into policy, procedure, rules, be thinking about that, and we can kind of dig into that a little bit more in our next meeting, because I kind of sprung this on you with no warning as an agenda item. So. And then what we'll do, and part of the organizational meeting that we had for council, the committees were tasked with looking at what's on our plates and then seeing if there's areas that can be restructured or realigned to help our work be more efficient. Okay. So next I have on here meeting agenda template, and what we're trying to do also is streamline the manner in which the committees are organizing ourselves for agenda purposes to make sure we're hitting all the right points, confirming attendance, confirming the agenda, looking at previous meeting minutes to make sure that those are confirmed as accurate, and then posting them to the website, which was a directive from the city, from our community. And I believe it's also in our council rules already. And so we're trying to nail down a process by which we're hitting the main things. We're making sure that our committees are hitting the points that we need to be hitting in terms of council rules, and then having a mechanism in place where we're streamlining our agenda so that we're speaking the same thing in each committee as we go forward.
Madam Chair, do you care if I chime in for a
Sure.
second? So I want to back up a quick second, though, because I just want to provide a little historical information about when you spoke about the 30 minutes, and I get it, that sometimes 30 minutes isn't enough. I understand that, which is exactly why finance is at the end of the night, so it can go longer. But with that said, there used to be 4 committees split up on 2 nights, and we did like a trial period where we said, let's try to do them all in one night. And when we did that, we even said, if this doesn't work, let's change it. So we might be at that point where we change it back. So I just want to provide that history. And another thing, I heard you mention posting the committee agenda and minutes and everything to the website. I would also like to ask if we can, I see our clerk in the audience. Our clerk is in the audience. I think we need to come up with a new file structure on the website, because I can't find committee meeting minutes on the website. So maybe you can kind of poke around and see if something like that if we can make it easier to find the committee stuff on the website. Thank you.
And Ms. Zorb, I believe there's a bucket there. It just hasn't been populated in a very long time. So yeah, that might be why we can't find anything, because it hasn't been posted.
Yeah, it might be a really simple solution. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. So if we're using a template, then we're making sure that we are at least hitting the basics of what our committee is responsible for covering, and making sure that we plan and allot enough time in the agenda to make sure we're getting through it. Because this is a full agenda, and there's not one single piece of legislation that has been forwarded to this team to review, and that could take a half an hour in itself, depending on the complexity of the legislation. So,
Madam Chair.
yes, ma'am.
So I agree that it may be time to consider, not that you need my buy-in, but not all of these topics will stay on there. It's fluid, it constantly will change. And to Ms. Zorb's point, there used to be 4 Mondays that we met. The second and fourth were reserved for committees. If you all do change, I would ask that you would consider that Budget and Finance be moved back to the 4th Monday, only because that changed an administrative flow that we need. We've adjusted, because these are your meetings and you get to make the decisions. However, it did change an internal administrative flow for us in terms of monthly reporting, that it doesn't make sense if you're going to have 4 meetings to leave Budget and Finance on the 2nd Monday, and then you will get more if you move it to the 4th, because you have the 2 weeks that are at the end of the month where expenses are still rolling in. So we would be able to capture those 2 weeks, whereas the way that it is now, we're running 2 months behind in order to capture those 2 weeks. So if you will remember, we used to do 1 month, and now we do 2,
Right.
and that's why.
So it's fortunate that the chair of Budget and Finance is also a member of this committee. So I think we can align in that respect. Also, another benefit of moving back to the 2nd and 4th Monday is that currently, with everything happening on the 2nd Monday, if there's anything that needs to be referred to committee in next week's meeting, it's a 4 to 6 week wait, potentially, before a committee can even take a look at it, depending on how the calendar rolls between that meeting and when the next 2nd Monday would be, so it could take a while. So if we stagger the meetings again, it can be like, we need to address this between now and the next meeting. Well, there's already committee scheduled. So is it possible that some of those members could attend and discuss and get that through the process a lot faster?
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Inclusive of that, that's actually why we had to start doing executive sessions during committee meetings, because there was only 1 meeting a month, and then in order to get it in for that next council meeting, so when you abruptly cut the flow of the end of the month reporting, and you only have that one committee day, it makes it very difficult to get all of those topics in and to make sure that we're getting things in that need to be
Right.
talked about.
I think we're aligned, yeah. So we will, as it's fortunate that all the committees will be meeting tonight, so maybe this is something they can add to new business and kind of just noodle on. I had the pleasure or misfortune of being first, to bring it up, to say, I don't think this is going to be enough time, basically, as we go forward. And you're right, a lot of this won't be on future agendas, but at least if we can plan, I'd rather give people 15 minutes back than to have to push things out months and months and months, because there's just not enough time to work through it. So, okay. So the next thing I have, and just for timekeeping purposes, it is 6:20. And is there anything else in terms of organizational discussion that anyone on the committee would like to bring up or discuss?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure that I am understanding what we are asking from the city at this point when it comes to our meetings. I understand that we might need to have some of the city staff present at our meetings. So can you just speak on that, just a tidbit of maybe what staff members you think would be necessary at majority, if not all, of our meetings futuristically as we rebuild what's broken?
That's a great question, and that's not something I had thought about. So I had kind of at the very last minute, I understand, wondered if Mr. Dieters could attend this committee in particular, especially as we start diving into legislation. Also, if we're going to be talking code enforcement, if there's something specific that needs to be on the agenda, if either Mr. Wallace could be here or if he could give you detail, that would be really helpful, at least for this committee. In terms of the other committees, I can't speak to that. I know that Budget and Finance, normally the Finance Director is there. For Community Development, normally the Recreation Director is there, or provides a report if they can't be there. So is there anything in terms of city staff that you feel would be appropriate to have at this particular meeting where we're talking about nuts and bolts, basically?
From a city staff perspective, I would like to see a report submitted. Mr. Wallace is getting his footing in terms of what he is to report, because he's just been catching up. Like, there's a lot of catching up in NCH in terms of making sure that we are getting our code enforcement together. Again, there was a part-time role, and then there was almost a year vacancy. So I would like to see him make a report. We're working on compiling what that looks like. And then as he presents his report, then you can kind of tailor that and say, hey, this is more of what we want to see, which is what we've done across all of the other spaces where even in Budget and Finance, we talk on a continuum about what the report would have in it or not, if you want to see more or less. And then as it pertains to Mr. Dieters, I am not Mr. Dieters's boss.
I understand.
That's not in his, that's not in the charter or his contract.
Right. Okay.
So I think
Understood.
so just so I can circle back to make sure I'm saying this, if there is a space where you want Mr. Wallace here, and I'll have him make a monthly report, and if you want him here to talk about a particular topic, I will invite him to come.
Okay. And we can work together on how much notice would be reasonable.
Yep, because they do have lives.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Okay, is there anything else in terms of organizational discussion for this committee?
Yes, one more thing.
Sure.
I just wanted to speak, not to harbor on code enforcement, but I would love to speak and see if we can kind of get an idea of the progression that's occurred since he's been here. What wins has the city had, even financially? What additional revenue has the city received? And what changes with our new code enforcer, keeping in mind that it was a vacancy and then also a part-time role? what codes have we seen a decrease in that he's really been implementing. I would love to see those factors, and I'm sure Ms. Clear and maybe my other members on council in this committee would also maybe offer some suggestions. What I don't want us to have is just a generalized report that doesn't give us the nuts and the bolts. We want to look at the facts, any regression that's been there, and also things that we would need to implement or even take away that's not productive or it could be counterproductive for our city.
Anyone else? Okay. So we're moving on to old business. And there are 2 items that are on the minutes from the November the 10th meeting. And lost my paper. There it is. And they are, and I kind of really summarized these quite a bit just for the sake of space on this paper, but the status of Walter Drain and Iron Mountain service agreement is the first one. And what the previous minutes stated was Iron Mountain contract would be more than what was planned on. We need to either cancel the agreement, $180 a month for storage for 1 year, and then the second note says if we cancel, we have to pay for the year, plus $800 to ship the documents back. Then the third point says add cost to 2026 budget. And the fourth point was we need to add $2,500 for Walter Drain. So it looks like someone did the math. Where I'm fuzzy is, are we keeping it, canceling it? Is this the buyout fee? Was it in the budget? I'm not sure where this landed because I don't believe that Rules and Public Policy met in December.
We already solved it, though. So even though they did not meet in December, it was solved in probably October or November. What the city decided to do is and the files are offsite. They're stored offsite. The fee to bring the files back in was equivalent to the fee to bring the files back in was equivalent to the offset if we had not continued the contract to May, which is when it ends. So either way, we were on the hook for the entire amount. And it is convenient for us to leave those files where they're at instead of drawing them back and trying to figure out where to put them. So that's where we're at until that gives you guys time to figure out
So that
room.
did get into the budget then if we have to pay at least through May then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the contract renews when or?
It doesn't renew. It's done.
Okay.
The storage fees, once they come back in-house, there are no longer any storage. Now, there's an ongoing fee, and that got put back into your budget.
All right. So for the time being, they're staying there where they're environmentally controlled and safe and secure and accessible. Yep. Okay. Sounds reasonable. Okay.
And then you said something about Walter Drain.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. It's under the heading of Walter Drain and where the Iron Mountain contract is mentioned in the minutes. I'm not sure if that's the same thing or a different thing. I don't know if
They're
someone
separate.
in the meeting could clarify.
They're separate. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair. The Walter Drain was regarding, apparently it wasn't budgeted and things didn't get sent to Walter Drain. So it was just to kind of cover it to make sure that it is accounted for in the future.
And what is Walter Drain? For
Walter
those who
Drain
don't.
is where all the codified ordinances are.
Okay, that's where they're physically stored.
Yes.
No.
No.
Not physically, electronically.
Okay, got it. No?
Walter Drain is the process that the city enters in order to codify the ordinances. It was always in the line item. It was budgeted for, but it had not been done in 3 years. So we had an
that's right.
exorbitant amount of cost in 2025. And I'm not trying to step on your toes. I just want to be clear so that we are making sure that we are appropriating the right line and the amount of money for 2026. Because if we believe that it has been budgeted, and then we had an exorbitant amount of costs in 25. So we will be able to go back down to what we were previously, as long as they don't go up in charging us.
So the lesson learned is make sure that if we have anything changing to the codified ordinances, we do it in a timely manner so that we don't incur a bunch of fees 3 years from now again.
Yep, I just
Okay.
think continuity got lost.
Yep, got it. Okay. And we're at 6:30, and we did not get through all of the old business and most of the new business, but if I don't know if the next committee chairperson is willing to wait 2 minutes so we can potentially wrap it up here. And did someone else have new business that we had to discuss today that's time sensitive?
Madam Chair, I'll yield 2 minutes
Thanks.
for my meeting.
I have nothing that's time sensitive, but I do have something I would like to add to.
Sure. And this will be parking lot for next meeting.
Yes, please. I heard you mention reviewing legislation. I know, and I also heard the prosecutor's name mentioned. I know there was junk car legislation passed quite a few years ago, and then when it went to be enforced, the prosecutor said it was not enforceable. So I'd like us to review that and get that to a place where it is enforceable.
Okay.
We will need the prosecutors. We'll probably need the city solicitor and the prosecutor both to be in those meetings to make sure that all of our ducks are in a row.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I agree that is a piece of legislation that needs to be looked at to create an enforceable space for the city. But we are working on so many things. It would definitely interrupt the continuity to start on that right now, as opposed to working on the things that we see more frequently. For example,
I know we're on borrowed time.
We have
so
30 seconds left, so.
I just want to point out that
Yeah.
that's why I wanted it in the parking lot. We'll look
put
at
it in the
when
parking
time
lot.
permits.
That's-
It's not an emergency. It's
It
something that I
will
don't want
continue
to.
to roll over on the agendas until it is
Thank you.
resolved. That's how this is going to go.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Since we're still talking about code enforcement, I want to make sure that it's on Mr. Wallace's radar that all businesses in the city have, and I want to say wide enough parking or wide enough entry so that multiple vehicles can enter and exit simultaneously. So there's not one vehicle that can only enter and then you'll have to wait, potentially holding up traffic in any area of our city. If he can maybe look at that at any of his time between now and potentially our next committee meeting, just to ensure if there is a code relative to that and if he's ever reviewed it and what his findings are.
Okay, and with that, I'm trying to think, there was one more thing I was going to say and I forgot what it was, but that's okay. So our next meeting will be, as of right now, second Monday in February at 6 o'clock, unless we decide to implement the fourth Monday option, which means we may meet sooner. Or we may meet at the end of February, but that is our next meeting as of right now. This meeting is now adjourned, 6:33.
The time is 6:34 p.m. and we are going to start our Public Safety Committee meeting. I do want to let everyone know that I heard from Mr. Davis, and he unfortunately will not be able to attend this evening. However, I do see everyone else here on the committee, so good to see you. First, I want to talk about the purpose of our Public Safety Committee. What kind of oversight, the collaboration, how I would love for us to be. I'm sorry, excuse me for just a second, please. I'm sorry, excuse me, please. I apologize. The feedback interrupts the meeting. The oversight, the collaboration, and then our community focus on safety. Before we talk about that, I do want to talk about our meeting structure. I want to invite our citizens to come out and be involved, ask questions regarding the safety of our community. We all live here, many of us work here, and so we really want to make sure that citizens in our community have a seat and a voice at the table. I invite you to email me, kcuritan@northcollegehill.org, so that if there are any questions, anything that you would like to have added to the agenda, we can have that. So the oversight, the collaboration, and the focus of our community, I want to first talk about a couple of things that we've had happen within the last, I want to say, couple of months. Unfortunately, our city experienced a rash of burglaries. The businesses on Galbraith Road, they were impacted. Most recently, Mex Shell. And then last year around Mother's Day, I believe there were multiple issues where an assailant attempted to rob or enter in vehicles, at least 15 different streets in our community. I was hoping that Chief Cheney would be present this evening. However, I understand that he had additional obligations. Ms. Dukestein, going forward, we would like for either Chief Cheney, interim Chief Cheney, and or someone from the department present at Public Safety in order for us to have these effective communications and conversations regarding our city and moving forward. We will need for someone beyond just a report. I do have his report that he made public for the city in reference to the numbers and our stats. However, we want to kind of dive into that more so and do a comparative analysis between what the numbers were in 2024 versus 2023, and then even 2025, and even forecasting going forward. What preventative measures are they implementing for the safety of the citizens?
Madam Chair,
Sure, yes, go
are
ahead.
you aware that both he and Joe are hourly employees?
I do recognize that. And that's why I said that either one could recommend a representative from each department present. In order for us to have these conversations, we will need to do a deep dive beyond just the report. I can, as I did previously, provide questions in advance so he and anyone we invite to the meeting will know the topics of discussion. But because of what's been happening in our city, we've been in the news a whole lot for some crimes, and I know our officers are working day and night to provide safety and better efficiency and even communicating to the citizens as what's happening. But I want to know more about the collaborative agreements that we have, inclusive of even like tomorrow, we have a neighborhood watch meeting. I would love for this room to be packed out. Citizens have questions, they have concerns about safety, and I know that our police department, in addition, says, hey, if there's a robbery that took place in the community, does your home have cameras? What did you see? If you say something, see something. So I think it's good that we're able to have visibility of what they're doing, but it's also good to know what the futuristic forecast looks like for safety in 2026.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
so the whole police department and fire department, the way that they do their schedule is they schedule based on a need quota. And so when you're pulling, they're not going to be able to schedule outside of that. So if you're asking them to come to an additional meeting, that is literally pulling somebody outside of the ability to respond to calls.
Let's just see what Chief Cheney and Chief Plackey suggest. I want to make sure that we don't necessarily speak for them, but they actually have weigh-in on this conversation.
I'm not speaking for them. I'm telling you what we've already discussed. That's why we haven't had them here on a rolling basis, and then it's only been as needed because we're protecting their assets to our city, and so it can't be necessarily Chief Cheney all the time. And so we want to make sure that we're making the right financial decisions and the safety provisions for our city. So I'm not speaking for them. We literally have talked about this. That is a space where I would just ask you to consider that.
Sure. So as the chair of this committee, I just want to let you know this is what we're looking at for going forward. If there's ever a time in which they're not able to attend, we can maneuver around that. But forecasting going forward over the next few years in our city, We've had a lot of things that are happening, and I would love to hear from our interim police chief along with our fire chief to understand what safety mechanisms or measures are implemented that actually got us to a 15%, per Chief Cheney, a 15% reduction in crime in our city. I want to know what things were implemented in 2025 so those things can be echoed in 2026 and even do a comparison analysis. So if there are questions about their attendance futuristically, we can take that offline, or I can wait to hear from both chief and interim chief. However, their presence and their being a part of this conversation is essential and necessary in order for us to kind of rebuild a safer North College Hill.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
And this could just be my absence from the process for several months, but in the past, I want to say that the department heads for police, fire, public safety normally police fire attended these meetings. Every now and then they did.
Every now and then.
But I think, at least once a quarter or something where we have something where we can have someone here to be able to give us some more insight into this would be super helpful. Just to help us do our jobs, because we're trying to support you and answer to the constituents at the same time. And it would be nice if we could talk to someone directly. Not that you're not capable or qualified, but if they're here once a quarter, then we can kind of do a deeper dive into some of those topics.
I would be very supportive of once a quarter. I think that would be best for the city, but to have them here on a monthly basis is a little bit strenuous.
Sure. Well, I did send an email out requesting some information to Chief Cheney, so I'm hoping that we will have that information and that if he's not able to be here, at least the committee can effectively execute the tasks and due diligence to the city. And part of it is that our job is to ensure accountability in public safety operations, so that's why our committee is here. I also want to stress the need for collaboration. I believe strongly that it's essential for our city to move forward. We have to work with police, we have to work with fire, we have to work with our emergency services, and every community organization like the Neighborhood Watch that's being formed in order for everyone to play a part in the safety of our community. In fact, on this committee, I want it to be a community-focused safety. I want to hear from the residents, the concerns, and what problems I would say the promotion of proactive solutions. Again, I appreciate the report that Interim Chief provided, but I would like to know what are the proactive solutions, because clearly he's done something right. There's clearly facts here that says because of what he's done, he's been able to reduce the crime in our city, and we're so thankful. But I want to know what proactive solutions have the officers been able to incorporate
Madam Chair,
to get us there. Yes.
I will. Can I request time to meet with you separately? Because I agree we do need to have the conversation offline. Not that it's not a public forum, so I hesitate, which is why I kind of push in the meetings. I don't want to exhaust your time, but I also want to respect the fact that the citizens need to be able to hear all conversations. I agree that we do need to work together, and council needs to have face-fronting time with those different entities within the city, but working together doesn't necessarily mean coming to your meetings. Sometimes you all can bend and come to their meetings because they are on a time restriction, whereas you all are. I'm not saying that you're not on a time restriction. I would also like to respect your time as well. But there are other spaces where they're meeting, and that is within their, because they're hourly employees, and that means something at the state level.
Sure. Let's just allow them and leave space for them to provide feedback and weigh in on this conversation. And based on their direct feedback is how we can pivot moving forward. So in respect of the time, with 16 minutes left, I want to make sure that we have a foundation for the expectations of this committee meeting. I want to make sure that we all recognize that professionalism is mandate. I don't think I need to say that. However, transparency is essential along with timely follow-up. And that timely follow-up would be inclusive of ensuring that any email correspondences or requested documentation and or reports are provided in a timely space. I wanted to ask my committee members if you all can provide, maybe I have a suggestion here, but I wanted to get some feedback from you all. If there's ever a time in which we ask for documentation or paperwork that is essential for the safety of this community, what do you feel like is an appropriate timeline, a time frame for those reports to be provided?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
depending on if it is a business day or over the weekend, I would say my expectation, as far as like if I requested something on a Monday, by Wednesday, even if it's just a response, I'm working on this, I'm going to need a few more days. If it's on a Friday, I'm not going to probably count the weekend because some people may not check their emails. So I would give another approximately 48-hour period on that one, even if it's just a response saying, hey, I'm working on this, an acknowledgement.
Thank you, Ms. Claire.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, it just real quick. I see your note. I'm working on it, and set an expectation as to when we might be able to get the information would be helpful, especially since these groups only get together once a month. So having information and knowing where it is in the pipeline, and can I get this in time for my next meeting? Do I need to push that out for another meeting? It would be really helpful at least to know, not necessarily like a 6-page report in 48 hours. I don't think anyone's asking for that, but just to say, I see what you're asking, let me confer, or I need to speak with Ms. Dukestein, or I need to speak with, somebody to get more information. Just an acknowledgement, at least. I think it's just a courtesy acknowledgement to say, hey, I see what you're asking, and here's when I think I can get that for you. Or did they have any questions for us? Because sometimes that happens too, where you get to the next meeting, well, I didn't know what you meant by, and I'm like, okay, well, you could have asked me. I would have clarified, so just if they have any questions for us, also in that intervening period would be great.
Good. Well, I guess I was being very gracious because I said 72, 96. So I think what we will fall between the 48 to 72 hour maximum. So Ms. Dukestein, I am going to ask if there is a time that anyone on this particular committee asks for a report, that you will then go back to each of your department heads respectively and ask that that's more so not necessarily enforced but requested. I realize things come up. I realize there are times in which every single deadline cannot always be met, but futuristically moving forward as we progress, I would like for you to request that with your department heads. And this,
Madam Chair, I'm not going to do that. And that's in the charter where you all are able to request reports. Their workloads are, I want to be sensitive to their workloads. I promise I will be respectful. I promise that they can respond and say, hey, I'm working on that, and give deadlines. There has been I'm not trying to be prohibitive or disrespectful, but you all do not know the scope of their work. And that is an administrative task. You're asking me to you're putting a timeline on me, which is a directive. That is not permitted per our charter.
Ms. Dukestein, I'm going to stop you as this chair here. At the beginning of my statement, I said as a request. I never said as a mandate. It's a request. To go back to what I mentioned, and on this committee, we have to work together. It's not stating that I mandate you to go to each department head to give these facts or statements. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm asking for you to do as the city administrator, in order for us to effectively serve our citizens in North College Hill, for us to collaborate together. That doesn't mean that it's a mandate. It's a simple request so that we can work together moving forward. If you do not want to do that, then I would question why not. However, I would ask for you to reconsider. If there are questions that we have on this committee, or if there is any council member who has a question relative to public safety, we would hope that within 48 hours or even 72, I would even say 96 hours, that question can be even responded to say, I'm working on it, and or I have a response. But to blatantly ignore it, to not even acknowledge receipt of that email, it doesn't set a tone. And I don't think any of the parties in our city would do that. So I'm asking for you to work hand in hand with us so that we can move forward together.
Madam Chair, if I may, I think I'm kind of listening and I'm hearing what both of you are saying, and I actually did sit on the other side of the table before, so I get it. But I think it would be helpful, maybe, and this is just a suggestion, if we standardized your agenda template, and I know that this first meetings are more organizational, but for example, in the charter currently, Public Safety Committee is Streets and Highways, Fire, Police, Housing, and then anything else assigned by the President of Council. If that was predictable and we knew that those topics were coming up and your meeting was on this date, then maybe like a couple weeks out, we can say, hey, these things are going to be on the agenda. Is there any way we can have an update for this meeting, or do we need to push it to next meeting?
I agree.
Would that be a reasonable compromise, or
Absolutely.
at least to try it that way and say these topics we're going to hit every meeting, or at least put it on the agenda, and if there's an update that we need from a department, that gives them a couple weeks to respond and get back in time for the meeting. Would that be acceptable?
I believe that would be acceptable. We are rebuilding. What I don't want to have happen is that there is a request that comes from, I want to use you, Miss Alexander. There is a request that comes, but it's ignored, or it's just something and we just move forward. I want us to stick and stay on the topic. There are a lot of unresolved topics from years prior that I think that we need to pull back to the forefront of our conversations so that we can rebuild, recollaborate, and restructure. So I agree. And again, Ms. Dukestein, this is not to say every single time there has to be a hard stamp. No, this is to say, in order for us to work effectively together, we have to sometimes do something that maybe we were not doing before in order for us to restructure and understand what our desire is and how I want to best serve this city. All right, let's move forward. We have about 8 minutes left in this meeting. I want to talk about some actionable items that I would like for our our committee to work on in our community. One thing that I would really love to do is to have I'm going to call it a community liaison for businesses, where when there's a citizen who lives here or even shops here or what have you, or frequents our community, I think they kind of know where to go. But if you do not live in this city, you may not know where our government offices are. So I would love to have someone who sits on this committee to be that community business liaison, strictly for businesses. If there's ever an issue where the business needs opportunities to understand like where to go to do anything related to the safety and the efficiency. And I go back to the businesses who were just impacted on Galbraith Road. I feel so very sorry for them. However, I want to make sure that they are appreciated in our community. Their dollars matter in our community. And honestly, we want them to stay in our community.
Madam Chair,
Mm-hmm.
can I ask a clarifying question? You've obviously thought about this quite a bit. I'm coming at this. So in terms of a business liaison, you're asking for someone on council to be like a point person? And what would that function be? Because it would seem like if there was a crime or things like that that would be necessary, they would go to police department or maybe the city administrator. What role would you see the council person being in that alignment? Or because I certainly, if I were going to raise my hand and say, yeah, I'll do it, I don't want to step on something that they're already doing.
Absolutely.
So I just want to clarify that it's within the bucket of a council responsibility, and how do you envision that looking?
Absolutely. So as a liaison, I look at that person being not just a single point of contact, but a person to say, hey, so if I go and consider the businesses on Galbraith Road, hey, my name is Kathy Curitan. I sit on council. Hey, Kathy Curitan, I've been trying to get a hold of someone in this particular department. Can you help me? I will help them get to that particular person in a way that streamlines the process. Not to say that they'll be able to overstep any process or any persons in the chain, but to moreover suggest this person as a business owner will have the ability to communicate And it doesn't necessarily mean theft. It could simply say, hey, to our police department, because I know frequently they look to know where are the cameras. If there's a residential camera, if there's a business camera, where are the cameras? And so if our department knows that ABC company, for example, has a camera, we are building that connection. It's not to solely say that it's just council, but it's to bridge the gap, between council, our police and fire department, and then even our city administration, to know exactly where we can best serve them for a more safer mechanism. You don't have to answer today because we are missing a committee member if this is something that you would like to take on and champion. But the sentiments of our community is that they would love to see more visibility from those who serve and those who work here in our North College Hill. And part of that is very consistent with our desire to consider where are the gaps, right? Where are the gaps? I've never, ever held a gun on my waist, rather. I've never gone to the academy and have no desires to. However, we have some of the best officers in our area. And so I would love for them, along with the businesses, along with a council liaison and our administration, to have those conversations so we can really preserve. Ultimately, I see this building the infrastructure of our community. If a business owner knows that North College Hill is safe, they more than likely may plant roots or have desire to plant roots. They may even consider to say, I'm renting, I'm leasing. Let me consider purchasing this property.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Is there an ad hoc committee, like we have the various other subset committees, and we have, members of council that are already represented? Is there like a business association that we have, and we have a council member that has that connection already?
Madam Chair?
To answer your question, we do have a chamber in our city. I don't think it's currently active. Ms. Dukestein, do you know?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Oh.
Is there an ad hoc committee that
has a business association that we may have
there
a
is a
council
business
member?
commerce where they gather and meet together. They have kind of slowed up on meeting,
Yeah,
and I
at
think
all.
that they need to be corralled. I think the person that was initially over it cannot withstand the commitment. And so I've been championing other businesses to kind of get it rallied. Some of the newer businesses are excited and want to get back started. So there is a business commerce.
It's called Business Commerce, is
Well,
that what it's called?
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
think
It's the
there's-
North College Hill Chamber of Commerce, and I want to say that during our organizational meeting, we did pick somebody who would serve as that
It is me.
liaison. Oh, okay.
That's
so
how I
then-
knew that commerce
So
was not
are you going to
meeting.
be the business liaison then?
So I want to,
It just begs the question that
Right,
seems like it's
sure.
duplicating effort. But it also seems like it has one foot in city community development and recreation, because that economic development is part of that. It's a passion of mine. So that might be a subcommittee perhaps that does some detailed work with one foot in this and one foot in that, maybe just to see if there's some opportunities there
Sure.
for.
I think the commissions are that, the planning commission.
Planning
and
commission is like land use and I'm talking about
they
like
work on-
I'm
there's a-
talking like supporting current businesses. What does our business district need from our city that maybe we're not being able to provide? Or maybe there's things like beautification, and I know we're out of time almost, but things like that. That is there something that council can do, and maybe it is like a subcommittee that has one foot in development and one foot in the public
Sure.
safety. I'm just throwing that out there as an option, just to kind of stick our foot in it and see what it looks like before we commit to like a long-term
Right.
process.
Yeah, and with respect to the time, I do realize that we may want to look at a committee, but I am not looking at something to be short term. I realize that the commerce is not meeting. There are quite a few different things that are happening on that end. However, I would be happy to, but I would love for that to be something to see if there's anyone on this committee who would like to. As the chair, if nobody else wants to, then we can revisit the conversation. But ultimately, when I look at public safety, it's not just the safety of those who live here, it is the safety of those who work here, who invest their dollars into our community that builds our infrastructure. And I just want to ask if there's any old business anyone has? Any new business anyone has?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would just ask that, in both the meetings, if you guys will read section 6.04, it's council, city administrator relations, and it kind of covers city employees as well. That is a good reference to kind of understand the responsibility, because it actually
Ms.
refers.
Dixon, we are out of time. I just want to let you know we are very familiar. In fact, I worked on the Charter Review Commission for the city of North College Hill. So we are very familiar. And I realize that this might be a little bit of a stretch.
Oh, you said request, and request is in the language here?
Then we can take the word request out. What I want us to do is work together. And at the bottom of however you want to look at it, we must work together. That's it. That's it, and that's all. We must work together for the betterment of just not you, not just me, but for the citizens in whom we serve. 7:01, and we're adjourning. Thank you.
Alrighty, good evening, everyone. This is our City Community and Development and Recreation Committee. And since this is our first meeting, I am just going to share that I am chair, and vice chair is Ms. Mashallah Alexander. And our members are Councilwoman Clear, Councilman Davis, and Councilwoman Ms. Chichester. And we are all here for the exception of Mr. Davis. In front of you guys, we have just a short agenda just to talk on a couple of topics that are important. And by each topic, we have our time. So 1 minute for attendance, so on and so forth. And that's kind of how I will have it structured going forward. And of course, if we want to have more time to discuss things, we can do that. In the previous committee meetings, we talked about moving from 30 minutes to an hour, and I think that is a wonderful idea. We can put more things in and talk a little bit longer. So I also wanted to just review with everyone the purpose of this committee. So it would be to set up service networks, community events, community groups, an overall sense of community. We will serve as the liaison between city government and special interest groups, planning and development, working closely with Planning Commission, public relations, and communication. And that's something that I think that is really important. Let's see. The next thing that we have is committee meeting procedures, and it'll remain very similar to how we operate in council meetings. If you have something that you guys want to state, you just say, Madam Chair, and I will address you. I also want the citizens to be aware that I will have time for public comments. I just ask that if there is something that you guys want to say, that you email me 24 hours before the meeting. And if you're unable to attend, but you still want it addressed, I will read it. So we have that. Number 4 on our list is just to address Pies Park gate lock. There was a motion to have the lock removed and for the city administration and whomever to address how that was going to be open and closed. And I just wanted to give the floor to our city administrator to give us an update.
I think it should just be open, like the rest of our parks. So
I agree. Does anybody else have any thoughts or comments?
Madam Chair, I
Yes,
do
ma'am.
have something about parks in general, but I think I'll wait until
No.
new business.
Ms. Chichester, do you have anything? Ms. Alexander? Okay.
No, I was just going to concur. I think it should just be open like all the rest of the parks.
Agreed.
I think that, I'm sorry, Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
we did have some issues with dumping.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the nature of the beast with some of the parks.
Mm-hmm.
It happens in every community. somebody chooses a park, it's a foresty area, so we'll manage that on the backside, and go from there.
Will there be routine checks?
Absolutely. We were checking before,
Okay.
so it'll just, that kind of schedule will go back into play. And I'm hoping that maybe because we've already had the lock on there, that people have kind of like said, oh, I can't go there to dump. So they're kind of reset their ability, although they were dumping during the day. But so we'll figure it out.
Okay. Awesome. So, Ms. Clear?
Oh,
About parks in general?
Well, I was going to wait because it's going to be kind of lengthy, and I know you've got other stuff on here. So it was, are we going out of order then? Or
We're
okay.
still in parks, so you're good.
Okay, so, well, I know that a couple of years ago, there was, and I believe it is actually part of the comprehensive plan to improve the lighting in the parks, and that was part of the process by which it's called SEPTED, but it's crime prevention through community design, or intentional design, or something like that, environmental design, that's it. But it allows for deterrence of crime based on how the environment is presented or how it is structured. Lighting is a big part of that. And a lot of our parks are pitch dark. And so what we had talked about, and I actually had in my former life gotten some preliminary quote and planning information from JMA, who are our city engineers, to provide an electrical access, which would have to be metered, and at least 2, potentially 3 of the parks that currently do not have that. Veterans Park, I believe, is the only park right now that currently has electric service and a floodlight. So that was something that we were looking at. And I know that council in the 2025 operating budget had included funding specifically for at least to get the meters in. But I don't know where that landed in terms of 2025 into 26 and if that project was even still on the radar screen. But it had been priced and it had been scoped, you know, I think for Wise Park and Stapleton for sure. And I think we talked about Pies, but the border of that is just, there's already a utility pole there. And so we were thinking maybe just doing something that's with the existing infrastructure rather than creating new. Plus, we don't own that property. So it would have to be in coordination with Clovernook Center for the Blind if we did anything. So that's why this is going to be lengthy. So I didn't want to interrupt your agenda to ask about that in particular. And is that project even still on the radar screen? Because they have contractors and they were planning on helping us project manage that within the budget that we had prescribed that council was amenable to, at least at that point in time. So I don't know where that project is currently. Is it still in process? I'm asking Ms. Dukestein if it's, or is it postponed or is it dead? I don't know where that project is.
It's not dead.
Okay.
So just this week, or I'm sorry, end of last week, Braden and I are working on, well, I should say me, I'm going over to the parks and just looking to see, not that the rec director wouldn't, but I want to first approach it from a public works standpoint, because we want to initiate what they can do to kind of curve cost. So I'm answering it on a broad level. We're evaluating what each park kind of needs to brighten our parks. It is definitely the intention to brighten them both aesthetically and per the lighting.
Okay. Do we have any cameras in any of our parks currently? And if we do, are they working?
We have cameras, not fully. We instituted the flock program with the police, so that gave us more camera range where we may not need. So that's an ongoing program, and some grant dollars are behind that would be able to help us see into the parks. They're for the purpose of police use, but we can use them for recreational use as well. So it would be like killing 2 birds with 1 stone, as opposed to centrally focusing on just putting cameras in the parks just for the parks. We want to make sure that it has dual focus, and flock is a way that we can do that.
Madam Chair. I was going to say that's actually encouraging to hear, because I know one of the struggles that we were thinking about is how do we get those cameras to talk to PD in real time, so if something's going on, that it can be responded to, so that if they're already utilizing the same infrastructure, that might be helpful. But again, the lighting was my main concern, because we can't put actual lights in there without having it be metered. So that's was step number one. So that's where I was curious to know. I'm glad to hear this project progress on that.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
for myself and for others who may be viewing, can someone explain the flock program?
Yes, the FLOC program is, it's a system of, now, mind you, I don't know all the ins and outs, but I'm going to try to give you a really good overview. It is a security system that we are programmed that the city is participating in order to get camera footage. It's centrally for like helping us identify when there's crime and being able to get to the source of those crimes. But in the same way, we can access that footage. Like we have actual access to the cameras as a agency. And so if there were to be something that happened in the park that damages the park or good, we can access those cameras. And so we have that access and can access it at will. So thus far, I can't think of any time that we've used it for something outside of accessing crime, but I can tell you it has stepped our game up, and we have been able to really utilize that for the benefit of some things that have gone on in our city. So it is an efficient way to manage and look in on our parks.
So is it
Madam
like
Chair.
remote cameras somewhere, or are we using other people's footage? Or?
It's a series of network of cameras that kind of fit together, different compilations. Sometimes it looks like, I know, what's that place? The Hair Palace we were able to access theirs. And it's not just asking them, like there's a network of cameras that kind of come together where we can view, and they all kind of get on the same one. And then there's ones that we put in, if I understand it correctly. Now, the part that I may not have right is how the network works, but I am sure that we're putting in cameras and we're getting resource dollars to make sure that we are connecting the dots to make our city more visible through camera footage.
Madam Chair. Yes, Ms. Chichester.
I thought the flock cameras, when I did the ride-along, were also able to read license plates.
They are.
So that if there's a stolen vehicle that enters our city, it flags that license plate right on the computer of the police department. Or if there was a crime and you want to know which direction that car went, it could read those badge readers and things like that. So.
Yep. It also has that capacity.
Awesome. Alrighty. Well, moving along, we have next on our agenda is the 1500 West Galbraith Road Subcommittee update. So I currently sit on the subcommittee, and just to kind of give a general overview of what we've done, we've reviewed the surveys. There were 2 surveys. We reviewed the first and the second one, and we also had a brief Q&A opportunity with RWB where they were able to come and ask questions that the subcommittee wasn't able to either answer for themselves or just was a little unclear about. And we had a total of 3 meetings. And after careful review, I would like to indefinitely suspend the current 1500 subcommittee just so that we can create and build a more robust committee where we can have people who have expertise on there, like architects, engineers, things of that nature, and also citizens. But in the meantime, the work that was being done, if it could come to this committee so that it's not lost in between the reconstruction of that 1500 committee, that would be awesome. Does anybody have any questions?
I do have one question. I remember in a previous meeting that there was some discussion about the appraisal.
Yes.
And I want to say it was was it this week?
Yes.
And that's still happening, yes? So that they have that data. Wonderful. That was my question. Even though the committee is going to be on, mothballs for a little while we get it restructured.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
So
Could still
that
come
data
to
is still going
us.
to be coming in then.
Yes, and if
Perfect.
I may, if it can be sent to all of us, Ms. Chichester, Mr. Davis, Ms. Clear, Ms. Alexander, so that we can review that and then move forward. Let's see. Does anybody else have any questions?
I have a comment, Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
There are legal parameters to the ad hoc committee. I think the council group has to satisfy those, but I don't know what those are.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it can just be suspended like that without, I don't know. I would
Absolutely.
consult our law director.
Well, I will review the charter and council rules, but for now, Ms. Councilwoman Alexander, would you mind sending this to our clerk of council so that it can be added to our agenda for next Monday for us to discuss and vote on? Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
so I'm confused. It goes over to council floor
Well, I
for
just
a
want to,
council vote, but it is a committee chair that was established by motion and vote already.
correct.
So we would have to follow the laws as it pertains to that.
Okay. I just want to make sure it's on our radar so that once we do our research and we see how to move with it, we already have a game plan. Okay. So next on our agenda is old business. Does anybody have old business for us today? Well, I do have one piece of old business, and it goes back to our city administrator. Are there any updates on our UC Health outdoor rec, like our location and timely?
Yes, so we're still in conversation. So we were supposed to touch base on the 9th. I was just like, what happened to that time? But he was reaching out to me. So, but where we left off at the end of the year was that we would circle back. We had reached the point of what we could reach. I know that we had, based on the parameters, been slated for the maximum amount for grant dollars to be provided for by UC Health. And then we had solidified a potential location. There are some parameters around making sure that that location is safe for both adults and children. And then, and I want to reiterate that that location selection is bigger than just me saying, hey, I want it here. They have some benchmarks and some markers that they require before they will even plant it somewhere. So we reviewed those per suggestion, and then they came back to us with some suggestions. And so there was one location in particular where we it met all of their markers and checked all the boxes, and we had that location in common. So we're moving forward to make sure that that location is possible, and we will be moving forward to secure the finality on the dollars, and there would be some advertisement in terms of constituency and donations for the rest of the project that will kind of like a campaign to fully fund the project. And so we're right on time in terms of their timeline and how they want to assist us in getting the project in NCH.
Okay, awesome. So right along those lines, Veterans Park, where are we with Veterans Park and selecting a vendor and all that stuff?
What do you mean selecting a vendor?
So the process to having that finalized
The
in
wheelchair
general.
ramp
Mhm.
and that.
Mhm.
So we're still looking for vendors.
Okay. Is there a timeline to that grant?
No, it is a match grant.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to, there's not a timeline. We want to, and then we need to do the work in feasible weather conditions. So if we
Correct.
didn't do it last spring or summer, then we would want to wait until this spring or
So
spring.
what would be the ideal timeline for us to begin? Should we begin looking at this in the spring so that we can have it completed here quickly? Because we don't want any projects to stall.
I wouldn't say the project has stalled. We're without a recreation director, so there's nobody to specifically move on that. And now that then there's weather and conditions, so it's not stalled.
No, I'm not saying it's stalled. I just don't want it to stall. So
It hasn't.
just so, okay, cool beans.
Madam
you.
Chair, I have a quick question on
Yes,
that
ma'am,
project.
absolutely.
So I know that when the funds were awarded, there was an agreement that was signed with the state of Ohio. And so you're saying that we don't have to have the project finished by a certain time?
No, not that Ms. Stevens Knott and I have looked
Okay.
into, but we have definitely moved forward in trying to make sure that we accommodate all the parameters of the grant. We have to spend our resources first.
Right.
And so that's usually with grants like that, just the nature of grants. When you have to spend your resources first, there's not these huge restrictions on time. So we're not falling outside.
And I
of
know
this
there
time.
was an option also to have, as long as it followed their protocols,
Yep.
donated labor and
Absolutely.
materials. But there were specific protocols for that as well. That's an option,
Yep.
So, okay. That was just my piggyback question on that.
Awesome. So does anybody have a piece of new business for us?
Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
I have one piece of new business. Many of us are familiar with North Hills Baseball,
Yes.
operated by Bill O'Brien and Coach K, affectionately known as Coach K, Jeff Kitchen. That last name is familiar. Paris Kitchen is a relation. But they are launching signups for this year, and they have a flyer almost ready to go. I was hoping to have it for tonight, but I'll definitely have it for Monday. And they have a new website that they've just launched. So if people want to register for their program online, they are now able to do so. And the second thing that's really exciting is that they have partnered with the Cincinnati Reds for their Little Sluggers program. So kids up to age 8, when they sign up for North Hills Baseball, they will be forming teams that will be part of the Little Sluggers program with the Reds. And that would help. There's a lot of ways that improves that program is the Reds then take care of reserving the fields and things like that. They're turf fields, so the rainouts are going to be a lot less often. They have a set schedule for the games, so it's easy for parents to plan ahead. So parents or caregivers to plan ahead. And there is an opportunity also if you coach that your child or the child that you care for can play for free if you're going to be a head coach in the program. So
Nice.
I just wanted to get that out there. As soon as I have that flyer, it will be presented to the community, and hopefully if with the permission of administration, I'd love to put it in our literature rack out front there. And they're very excited about that. Registration will go through March 1st for the program this year.
That is excellent new business. I have a 6-year-old who is like, Mommy, when does baseball start?
Oh, and they
So,
do boys and girls
awesome.
through
Thank you.
age 5 to 11.
That is amazing. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Clear, if you want to send it to me, I'll make sure it gets in the newsletter.
Beautiful.
And then also.
What would be when is, remind me, is it March?
Yep.
Oh, see, that would be too late because it
Okay.
ends March 1st is the cutoff for the registration because the season starts in April.
Here.
So we can put it out. I don't know if you want to put it out on the website or on
Do that.
Facebook. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, that would be great.
Yep,
Something,
I'll put
yeah.
it on Facebook and the website.
Okay, yeah, and we'll have paper flyers here then if people want to.
And then
Take it.
additionally, I don't know if you guys are aware, but there's a skating rink in North College Hill, over at
the
the,
Flock.
well, it's not the Flock anymore, but,
That's
or, I
right.
mean, I'm sorry, the building. I don't actually know the new name of that building, but it, was originally, assumed by land contract of a previous, potential owner, and then it defaulted back to the original owner, and they have put a full skating rink in there, and it's absolutely beautiful. There is volleyball, there is soccer, indoor, select.
Nice.
Those are all amenities and recreational options for our city. I know that the skating rink is open now. Is it open to the public, and what those hours are, I don't know. When I was last there, and this was probably early December, they were scheduled to be open next week. And I know that they have some like competitions and like some lessons and things that they were trying to get up and started first, and then they were going to open to the public. So as a follow-up, I will make sure that I get that information and bring it back, and we can put that on the website as well.
Nice.
So-
I think that would be a wonderful partnership, especially since we're talking a lot about recreation for our children here in the city. But Ms. Chichester, she had something that she wanted to add.
She said, I was just going to say social media.
Awesome. Yes. One more new piece of business and new business, and then I have a citizen comment. But at the beginning of today and all the committee meetings, we talked about going to an hour, and I just wanted to share with this committee that it would be great if recreation and budget and finance could kind of partner, because sometimes we kind of piggyback off of each other on the fourth Monday of the month. But I'm just throwing that out there for you guys, and we could talk about it a little later. But moving on, I have two pieces of communication from our citizen, one from the North College Hill Beautification Committee. It says, hello, we are from North College Hill. We want to have at least 2 utility boxes wrapped. So we've talked with, well, not we've, they have talked with North College Hill's code inspector and the city of Cincinnati, and it really falls in our jurisdiction to go forward with. There's a lot of work and a lot of information and prices. I am aware that Ms. Clear, you also have a little bit of a foot in this.
Peripherally. I am acquainted with Kimberly Flom, who runs Arts Connect in Springfield Township, and she spearheaded their project where they wrapped all of their boxes on
Yes.
Winton Road.
Beautiful.
So if you were interested in an introduction, whoever would be, I would be happy to send an email to introduce people.
Yes, please. I would
Okay,
love that.
can you let me know who would be interested in having that introduction?
Madam Chair. So the city has already started that initiative. We
Awesome.
did it through the recreational director. So they're $1,400 a box. They have to go through Hamilton County to even be approved. Our boxes are a little dated, so we're not sure that they would even be prospects to doing that. Some of them are painted and some of them are wrapped.
Yeah.
And so then there's also the decision as to whether or not we would do the main streets like the T with Galbraith and Hamilton. I will tell you that if you guys look on like the North College Hill talk page, and that's I don't remember what it's called for Springfield Township, it's a give and a take. There's a lot of decisions that would thought process that go into that at $1,400 a box. Citizens are actually not happy about their shift to that, and they give a lot of concernings. I was, from a PR perspective, considering that we need to talk about that. We can talk about it ongoing.
Yes.
That is a lot of money when we calculated all of the boxes that are just even on Hamilton and Galbraith. And so you say 2 boxes that you wanted to start with?
Yes. That's the request from the citizen. But
So Ms. Brunner was actually working on this project with the recreational director. She had already contacted Artworks. I don't know if she's still engaged. I know we hit the holidays and we had some just delay. So I'll just say that the city has definitely engaged the process already.
Madam Chair.
well, I don't mean to interrupt. It is 7:30. And
Yeah, it's like 2 seconds.
okay, go ahead.
For what it's worth, Arts Connect is a 501c3, so they were able to raise donated dollars to help fund at least a portion of that facility. So
That's amazing.
501c3, just throwing that out there.
Okay. Well, I would like to put that in our little parking lot and revisit that. I think that's something that's awesome. I'm passionate about beautifying North College Hill. So with that being said, I am going to adjourn the CCDR committee at 7:30.
We are in the fourth meeting of the evening, and we will start the Budget and Finance Committee meeting for January 12th. It's 7:33 PM. I am the chair of Budget and Finance. Ms. Curitan is the vice chair, and we have members Brielle Gaston and LaTanya Chichester. And everyone is in attendance for tonight. Ms. Curitan, I know you, since you're my vice chair, you'll be responsible for the minutes. And I do owe minutes for the last meeting in December. If you could make sure that that's on the minutes to hold me accountable to that. I still owe those.
I will.
Thank you. So the next item that I have on tonight's agenda is if any member of the committee has any type of goals or suggestions or ideas that they had for 2026, that we can kind of, similar to what Ms. Clear did, and we can start a parking lot of things that we'd like to address eventually and prioritize them accordingly, and I don't know, just start knocking things out of the park.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Gaston.
I'm very passionate about working towards understanding what we're doing financially with the 1500 building. So just getting an update on that and how we're going to work to fund that initiative, that big project, so that we get our home back.
I agree.
Yeah.
Ms. Curitan, Ms. Chichester, any?
Try not to call. Sure. Not at this time.
I will ask, though, if you do have something, you'll have to be a little closer to that mic. Thank you. She said not at this time for everyone in the audience. And she said it before she choked. Yes, Ms. Curitan.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. So I do have a couple of goals that I would love for us to focus on futuristically. The first is really to ensure fiscal accountability, and that more so looks like we review and we monitor what our city's expenditures are, and to ensure that we're compliant in all of our approved budgets. I would also like for us to look at an ability or a way that we can streamline the monitoring of the revenue and the funding sources. I know that there are items in our city that brings us revenue, and I would love to see if we're on target, if there's a forecast for it for the year, or even for the quarter, or even for the month, that allows us to see if we're on target. And then ultimately, I would love for there to be a greater level of transparency in our city's finances. We pay a lot to live here, and so I would love for there to be better transparency. And then lastly, as we look forward, I would love for us to consider, what are we looking at long term? Are we planning for just the right now, or are we planning for the next 10, 20, 50 years? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Curitan. So I also have two items that I would like to add to the list. One is we are about to head into tax season, and okay, I'm putting my foot back on that Rita gas pedal. So when I talk to our residents, I hear a lot of grumbling about Rita. But when you dial into it and really talk to them about what they dislike about Rita, I mean, everyone agrees you got to pay taxes, so obviously that's not it. But there was an underlying tone of, for the residents that have been here a while, they were accustomed to being able to come into a building, hand their W-2 to Shannon Homer, and Shannon would go back to her computer and she'd type some stuff in and she'd come back and say, write me a check for blah, blah, blah. And you'd write a check and you'd walk out the door. And so I think some of that, for lack of a better term, family feel is gone from the city. So I think, and I think I heard, Ms. Stevens, not when you had your report at the council meeting, you mentioned something about people came in and they wanted to kind of do that same thing, but you can't do that. They have to do it themselves. So my question is kind of twofold. First, can we maybe reach out to Rita and see if there's any way that we can partner with another city that's close by that is also utilizing Rita, and have one day, maybe one day a month, where a Rita rep is here or in another city that people can actually go and sit down and talk to a human. And then my other option would be, I know council, there's like legacy laptops. So I wonder if maybe we could even set up, like, for lack of a better term, a Rita station where people could actually come in and log in, because maybe not everyone has a computer at their home. So maybe we have some type of, like, I'm using terms that, I'm not married to the terms, but like a walk-in service that people could come in and maybe do their Rita online in the building with one of our laptops. So just trying to make it a little more accommodating and less nebulous to, I don't know.
Madam Chair,
I'm open to other suggestions. Those are just the two that I came up with. Yes.
I'm going to speak to the second one. I'll let Ms. Stevens not speak to the first one. I think the Rita Station might be a good idea. You're right. One of the We Thrive results was that we don't have a technology center and that and we don't have a library. So I will work on that. I will take that on. And I think that we should probably have a telephone. I know from personal experience, I remember the days where you could walk up and get a representative. I don't know that and I'm kind of embarking upon the first part of the question, is feasible for the community to have a Rita Rep Day, especially when they make themselves accessible on the 1-800 number. But if you call that number, I think if we could just communicate out the ease of calling that number and being able to access a point of contact in terms of technology, that would take us forward a whole lot. I think that's a really good idea. Even if we just have like a tablet or a computer or something, you're right, we could possibly implement one of the legacy computers or a desktop, but that is so easy. I know, again, I know from personal experience, you can just pick up the phone and they'll walk you through how to complete. So I'll take that on.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Stevens.
So I want to clarify what I said at council, or maybe just, when I stated that I can't get in the middle, it is when it has reached the subpoena level.
Oh, I stand corrected.
Once it gets to the subpoena level, I cannot be in the, we can't be in the middle. It now has become, it's above our pay grade at that
Sure.
point. What you're saying is actually something that we have, and I hope to implement actually in 2026. I do understand that people were used to coming and talking to a human. The system is not difficult. And so just had to kind of get my feet underneath me and make sure that we were on track for the big part of my job. But definitely having some time and scheduling and making it available for the citizens is something that's on the horizon. It's not hard. I have access to the software, and the conversations that I've had every time a citizen has come in or we've talked on the phone and I've explained what's going on. It's easy. I just think what it was is that it's something new that they did not understand before, because again, by us implementing the subpoena component, we now have access to information that we never had access to before. So you have citizens who are like, I've lived here for forever, I didn't know. How did they find me? I think that's my favorite one. How did they find me? Are they going to take my house? So just kind of educate. I still stand on the heel of education. When we do the best we can, when based on what we know, and when we know more, we do better. And so that's the land that we're in. But I definitely plan to make ourselves available for our citizens, especially when it comes down to around April 15th. So probably that week before, it'll definitely be kind of like a tax workshop. Like, so set up appointments and people come in. My mother happens to be the tax administrator for another municipality, so I've kind of tapped into her about how she manages that, because they also work with Rita, and her citizens also were very used to coming in and sitting down at the desk. So I have reached out to her about, how she kind of managed it during tax time. So I'm going to steal some of her ideas.
Perfect.
Madam Chair.
I think a lot of it might have been that fear of the unknown, the whole, that getting online, oh my gosh, because you hear all the security stuff, and then now we're pushing people to go online, and it's just that insecurity part of it. Yeah, Ms. Dukestein.
I think there was one component is, so people who have old cases, Ms. Stevens is actually working with them directly. It's the newer cases that fall under the wheelhouse of Rita that they are required to kind of work with Rita, and there can be some pre-steps and like a bridge with the technology and the support, and also just some tools to get them efficient, because I know not everybody is amiable to technology, but so many people are when they realize the ease of it. So for our residents that are not, we can be a safe space. And then for those that we can give tools to go on forward, Rita is super helpful to being able to help guide them through that.
Perhaps, I don't know what your timeline looks like to get that station
This tax
set up.
season.
Right. Where I was going with that is, can we add it to the newsletter? Make sure that it's in the newsletter. So again, that it's that tactile information versus always depending on social media. So maybe if we add that there, it gets the broader distribution. One other thing that I wanted to look into is converting because I'm pretty sure we pay for the power of the streetlights, right? We pay the electricity bill for the streetlights. So I wanted to look into getting our streetlights converted to LED, and what that I know Duke used to have a program that would come out and do a complete ROI for the city. And again, this is like a parking lot thing. This is not an urgent thing, but I want to make sure that we keep it on our radar to at least look into it and see if we can reduce our utility bill by going to LEDs for our streetlights.
We already are.
You already have the ROI?
No, we are already there. Duke is responsible for that. They're changing over. They manage our street light and our poles, and they're moving over to LED lights already. We don't manage our own lamp posts in North College Hill.
I know no city does, but I know we pay the electricity, so that's why I didn't know if. Okay,
Madam Chair.
That's different information from what I knew, but that's good information, so I'll take it. Yes,
Madam Chair.
Ms. Curitan.
Ms. Dukestein, has Duke provided a timeline? And is this something they're rolling out to all communities, or is this only specific to North College Hill?
It is not only specific to North College Hill, and they are on their own time, project by project, because they manage the upkeep of the streetlights. We are on their timeline. But I can find out if we have one specific to North College Hill.
Thank you. We really appreciate that. And to know if it's going to include all of our lights, if it's just going to be our main roads, if you can just provide a better scope of that project, that would be super helpful.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I
Ms.
will
Dukestein.
say, I don't know about you guys, but I love the nostalgia of the lamp posts that are down Galbraith. I don't necessarily want to see those change over to LED. The big, tall street lights that kind of give lights to the parks and other streets, like down the side streets, I definitely am an advocate for. They're beautiful when they're working.
Agreed. Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Chichester.
I was going to say, I think My streetlights are LED. I will definitely
Mine
pay
are.
attention when I pull up tonight, but they redid our streetlights when they paved. Half of our street wasn't paved, so I think when they paved it and everything, they redid the light fixtures on that street. That was some time ago.
There's,
All right, we can move on. That's all right. All right. Next on our agenda is the Winter Wonderland event, and I believe, Ms. Curitan, you wanted to add this to the agenda. Would you like to elaborate on that one?
Yes, thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Sure.
So for the past 2 years, the city has hosted a Winter Wonderland event. I just wanted to say thank you to Ms. Dukestein. I did receive something relative to the total cost of that project. And on this piece of paper, you're referencing a budget line item of 701 and 301. Can you confirm what is 701 and what is 301?
I believe one of them is mayor's budget, right? And then the other one is what?
Recreation.
It was a split. I know Miss Claire built it in her budget when she was recreational director, and then it's a project that the mayor wanted to. It was like, you know, every mayor has his or her project, and so this was kind of the one that she wanted to apply to this community.
Okay. Do you know what percentage came from the mayor versus recreation?
Now that I don't know. Miss Stevens not probably have to answer that.
I would say that the mayor's budget took care of the ice rink, and then the recreation budget supported these ancillaries.
So on this,
I would say like about 70-30. Don't nail me to the cross on that.
I think it's a little. I can give you the cost of that. The 17. What's the number on that? 17,000.
17,750.
So mayor's budget took care of about $14,000, and $3,750 was for out of recreation. So I think that's probably about
like
80.
80-20.
Okay, great. And I just wanted to confirm with you, it says $0 were revenue for the entire event. Was this supposed to be something where if anyone were participating, they would have paid to be a part?
So revenue is money that we made. We didn't make any money.
Right. So I understand there are things
Did we
that
collect money?
if we collected money and 14,000 was paid by the mayor's budget, was that to reimburse anything from her budget?
She has not been reimbursing into her budget. We've been putting it into general fund.
So if there were any dollars that we received, where would those be applied?
General fund.
General fund. Okay. Can you confirm if there were any dollars received?
There were a few dollars received. No revenue though. That was I guess that you asked about revenue.
Sure. Would you be able to, you don't have to right now, just give an exact dollar amount of the total dollars received for this event? 2024 and then for 2025? That would be helpful. And then I don't know if you recall, but I thought there was something that was made. I'm going to put you on the spot, Ms. Chichester. You can give a yay or a nay or a head nod. Was there a time in which this event was said to have been, I want to use air quotes, as free because someone at the very last moment said, hey, we're going to sponsor a couple of kiddos? Do you recall that?
There were 2 citizens that came by and paid for a few children.
Okay.
Those
Ms.
children. didn't-
Chichester, could you, thank you, could you get closer to the mic?
Those children did not show. And so I was told, because it was like very end of the event, that if any children came, that money would be donated towards those children.
Got it. So one of the questions, thank you so much, Ms. Chichester. I'll try to avoid having to ask you any
You're
questions. So Ms. Dukestein, one of the questions I asked you was, one, where the funding came from for this event. You've clarified the mayor and recreation. But the other question I asked is, were there any additional financial contributions? And
Madam Chair.
And you mentioned there were not. So I don't know if you want to clarify if that particular sponsor who dropped off and said, "Hey, I want to pay for a couple of kiddos," even though the kids did not show up. Can you provide clarification on that?
So we didn't
Wait.
take the money.
Madam Chair.
Did not take the money.
So if they didn't show up, we didn't take the money. If the kids, so there was a significant amount of dollars that were volunteered, and we did not absorb. So if we're not going to take money for the kids to come if the kids didn't come, so we only took the dollars where the kids actually came.
Good. So I'm just going to assume that the party would know whether the kids came or not, and subsequently.
Yeah, we reported back to them.
Okay. So was that an exchange where we actually had to take money from our funding to give a check back to them, or was it simply?
No, they never gave the money. They
never gave the money.
So they offered to pay for a set amount of kids.
Okay.
And when the kids that could absorb that set amount, that's when those funds we took. The rest of them we never took.
Okay. All right. Great. And then one last question relative to this. Was this intended to be a revenue generating event for the city, or was it solely just for the exposure and entertainment?
So both and. So I did a lot of in-depth kind of, I will say study and research. So even Cincinnati's still not making revenue from their ice skating rink. It takes a lot. These events build over time. So we're taking in what we did right, what we did wrong, to try to boost it up. We would like to, I know that I saw some feedback on, I won't go into that. What I will say is that we're not sure what this event is going to be yet. If it's going to be another additional contribution to the community. It is such a nice event. If finances are hindering people from coming, then we don't want that to be a barrier from for people attending. So if it is something that we can generate revenue from, because every city does need to have some kind of event where we are generating resources. It shouldn't just be, tax dollars and those kinds of things, fees, tickets. It should be something. There's a key earmark of every city, Blue Ash, downtown, the whole nine. If this can be that, then we'll do that. But we are definitely looking into partnering with other cities to try to make this event a more composite of what we want it to be.
Sure. And one last question for you. Is the city currently, for any of the items, because the mayor, she can do whatever she desires with her budget, subsequently, I'm asking in reference to recreation, is the city scheduled or slated to have a contract for this $3,750, even up to $75,000, which is your threshold for this event over the next 3 to 4 years? So I'm asking you, is there already a contract in place that says if we render the X, Y, and Z services to the city, we will deliver them at this cost?
No.
No, nothing for this event. Okay, thank you.
All right, Ms. Chichester, I think I heard you try to chime in a while ago. You good?
I was just making sure we didn't say the person's name. They didn't want that public. So I was just making sure it didn't.
Okay, thank you. All right, the next item on our agenda is the waste and recycling services. I think, Ms. Curitan, I think you wanted this added too.
I did. Thank you, Ms. Zorb. Ms. Dukestein, do you have a moment to review that email requesting specifics for the Rumpke negotiations?
Yes, I have. And so you asked me about the bidding process, opening up to other.
Actually, I can, Madam Chair, if it's okay, I can ask you the questions at this time if you're open.
Yeah,
And then,
go
okay,
ahead.
great. So one of the questions I asked you is, what is the anticipated date for the bid process to begin?
I have not set it yet.
Okay.
So we needed to start working on it coming back from the new year. I came back on the 5th, so we're working on it.
And what contract term is being considered? The length and the renewal options?
So that is what the bidding process is for, to see what our renewal contract will be. Our contract is officially up as of 2025. I did a bridge contract with Rumpke to withhold our rates until we complete this process. That was on both our end and Rumpke's end because the time frame in which we needed to roll this out and to give it. So we could have actually just rolled over another contract with the same terms. But one of the things that I want to make sure as a city manager is that we are collecting enough to cover our costs. In past years, we rolled it over and then the city was actually coming out of pocket for a resident garbage collection. And I just want to make sure that I'm looking at that. And because I was doing all 4 of the bargaining agreements at the same time, I didn't feel like it was fair to dig into that. And then the Rumpke representative that we've worked with for quite some time also had some time restrictions. So he gave us an extension of the exact same contract, which we do know we're safe in 2025.
Okay.
But we make the contract for some years out. So we want to also figure out, are we going to be able to cover the cost right now and the years to come?
What is the duration on that bridge
Yeah.
contract?
2 months,
Effective 1/1?
1/5.
1/5. So although typical business operations were not happening 1/1, what happens with that gap between December 31 and 1/5?
This bridge is over.
So our contract expired December 31st. The bridge started January the 5th.
Mm-hmm.
What happened with those 4 days? Will the city have to incur costs? Is
No.
there something that
Mm-mm.
happens in the middle?
Nope, no cost. The first garbage collection was whatever day it was.
Yeah, 1/5.
It's after the 1/5 date. The one that ended on the 31st and the one that started on the 5. So even though that's the tangible business day, it still bridged over from the
Sure.
time that they collected, from the last time to the first time they collected.
Another question I asked is the current provider eligible to bid? I assume they are, and if they've shown interest
Yes.
in the bidding process. Okay. I know that you said that you do not have an anticipated date, but I would like to know why. What is potentially, and I realize it's only the 12th day and only the 8th or 7th business day of the year, but I'm just curious to know if we can have a more definitive timeline of when this could take place. Before you answer that question, another question that rolls into this is, will the bidding process allow proposals that could change the current service level for residents, such as for recycling, bulk pickup, yard waste, things of that nature?
No, so bulk pickup and so the recycling is built in the garbage cost for residents. The leaf pickup, the bulk rate, those things are per Rumpke, but they are individual costs incurred as the customer requests. And so those are not attached to the bill. You pay those out separately. And so
But those charges are on our water bill. So we don't necessarily pay Rumpke separately. We pay them when we pay GCWW.
So you pay your trash pickup and your recycle through your water bill.
Correct.
But
Yes.
bulk pickup, if you were to elicit Rumpke to pick up bulk, you pay that separately,
Okay.
not through your water bill.
So just to confirm, I heard you correctly. Are you entertaining any service level changes that can impact residents?
The service level change, no. I would want to retain the same level of service. The cost that the resident would incur would be based on the new parameters of that bidding process. We want to, that's the whole point of the bidding process, to get the most competitive rates for our residents. And
Sure.
sometimes other it will be opened up to other service providers, but it's up to them to bid to us.
Sure. So what methods are you utilizing to advise of the open bid process?
So that's part of your other question, and then timeline. It is a legal process
I
that we
understand.
have to go through.
Sure.
And so I don't set that timeline.
To start the timeline, it does fall within the administration's viewpoint, and then it also sets the
To schedule, because it has to
to
be
open
an
up the
open
bid.
bid.
Yes, to
and
open
we have
up the
to
bid.
schedule an actual hearing once it's all said and done. So all of those things will be scheduled. They have not yet been scheduled. I won't set that. I mean, I will open up the bid, but I won't set all of the other things to follow.
So ultimately, on this committee, I want us to have better fiscal responsibility. Rumpke has extended us with an additional 2-month, we're calling it a bridge process. We're on the 12th day of the year. I would rather we not put ourselves in a predicament where we're forced to accept certain bids. I want us to have better competitive bidding. So I'm hoping that by our next committee meeting, we will have a more definitive update on where we are in this process. You don't have to answer right now, but I'm hoping as we look forward and forecast for the rest of the year that we will have a more definitive timeline of this process so that when council gets it, we're not rushed to make a decision, but we can actually have time to chew on it.
I think your statements require a response from me. I think your assessment of the circumstance is that we have been delayed and we haven't. The extension of the contract was also a desire of Rumpke, not just something we did for the benefit of the city. It was also Rumpke to make sure that we had the ability to enter into an appropriate bidding process based on their representative. We are in communication with the Rumpke rep. We are doing what we need to do to have put a competitive bid process out there. We will meet the time deadlines, and to be transparent, we're already in the gap year. Our previous interim city administrator put us in a continued contract for 1 year for 2025. So this is the pause for administration to stop and look at this and make sure that it's a win, not in any way that we slight or hold back the city. To take this pause and make sure that we enter into a bidding process is to benefit the city and the residents.
Madam Chair, just one more point of reference, if I may.
Please make it quick.
Yes, absolutely.
We
So
belabored this
ultimately,
subject.
absolutely. So ultimately, and this is not only referencing Rumpke, this is in reference to any contract negotiations the city does. I would rather we not wait until the contract expires, because we knew that it was going to expire December 31st. I would rather we forecast, and I keep using that word because that's what we should do. We should know that, hey, December 31st, we're going to be met with the deadline. Even if they offered the bridge process, I would have loved for the city administration to have reviewed this in Q4 of 2025. That way we can be ahead, not necessarily suggesting that we will have to make a final determination at that time, but it allows us to move ahead and save space for some of the unknowns that could come up.
If it was just a matter of renewing the contract, I could have done that. That is what I'm saying I did not do in order to make sure that the residents were getting the best deal. I could have done that. I did review it in Q4. When I spoke with the representative from Rumpke, I realized it was in our better interest to enter a bidding process to make sure that we were getting the most competitive rate. So that is why they gave us an extension of the contract. That is the right thing to do. We started looking at this actually outside of Q4 and Q3. And so this is an evolution of a process that's best for our city, and meaning the administrative space that we're not paying to pay for resident garbage and for the residents. So I think the kind of language is around there was a delay and there wasn't. Just because a contract extends outside of it, I mean, I'll stop there because for the sake of time, but.
I think my only point that I want to bring up is that 2-month extension. And if we don't have the RFP already written and published, I guess that I'm wondering, can that be extended like another 2 months? Because I have a feeling we're going to have a trouble meeting that 2-month deadline if we're actually putting this out to bid. I guess that's kind of where I'm going with it.
we are able to extend as long as we need to go through
Okay.
this process appropriately.
Okay.
They want to give us we want to go through the process.
Okay, perfect. All right, let's move on to the the finance manager with the monthly finance reports.
You have the documents. Are there any questions?
Not at this time.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Curitan.
I wanted to ask a question relative to one of the documents that Ms. Dukestein sent over, and thank you for sending that over. There is a report called, and I don't even know if it's called this, but there are some outstanding checks that are there. What is the city's process to clear those up?
They go to the bank.
And if the payee doesn't ever cash the check, then what is the city's position?
We contact the vendor to find out if they lost the check,
Okay.
if they want the check reissued. By law, we have 3 years that we have to work at contacting them. If after 3 years they do not contact us, then we have to submit it to unclaimed funds, which is a November report.
Thank you. There are some checks out here from 2024. And I was just wondering, got it. Okay. And then can
I'm
you,
sorry, Ms. Curitan, can I want to stay on that for a quick second. I have something in the back of my head that says we used to get like a stale check report or something like that.
You don't need a stale check report because it's right there.
Okay.
So no need to kill another leaf. But so there, if you remember, there were more from 2024. So we
what
have.
is your definition of a stale check? Like, what does that timeline look like?
Actually, for me, it's anywhere between 6 and 8 months. So 6 and 8 months. So we actually, me and Anne Marie actually have cleaned up several of these, contacting the person that the check was written to, getting them reissued and things like that. So we've just got a couple hanging out there, and we're still working, because it used to be that you could send something to unclaimed funds pretty quickly, but now they want you to do a lot of legwork before you submit them. So rather do the legwork on this end. I don't anticipate that Uptown Bengals Youth Organization is going to respond to us for $1.85. I anticipate.
35.
Oh, yeah, you're right. 135. I don't anticipate that. So that one is probably going to end up in an unclaimed fund situation.
And just to clarify, the date on here is the date that we wrote the check, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And remember, this is November. This is November's report. So most of these checks have already cleared for December.
Thank you.
thank you, Madam Chair. So do you by chance, putting you on the spot, you may not know, then what is that total dollar amount for our current outstanding checks?
It's at the bottom of the report.
Right, so this is November. I was assuming that December.
Oh, you're asking me about December's?
Right.
Have no idea.
Have no idea. Okay.
I wouldn't have an idea.
Okay, sure, no problem.
I don't check that every day. So, however, that's another piece of the reconciliation that lets you know, cash to book. So,
Sure. Madam Chair, I also had an additional question regarding 2 checks that are here. So I realize we use the example of Uptown Bengals, $1.35. They may not be looking for that. However, there is a $90,416.39 check 21670. Can you confirm if there is a discrepancy with that? That's fairly new and it's significantly large.
both checks have cleared.
Oh, they're cleared. Okay.
Just out of curiosity, what did we use them for?
Galbraith Road.
Oh.
Subcontractors.
Thank you. Perfect. Ms. Curitan, did you have any other questions about this report?
I might, but I'll allow another member to speak at this time.
Ms. Chichester? Ms. Gaston?
No.
All right,
If I may speak,
yes, please.
I just want to thank you again for the very detailed report. And I just want you to know that it's appreciated. I know we say it all the time, but I want to give you your flowers. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Ms. Cureton, last bell.
Ding, ding. One more question relative to, it's called the reconciliation of cash receipts and cash disbursements. So I love the fact that the outstanding balance per the bank is the same. Can you just maybe confirm with me if I'm looking at this correctly? I see where it says balance by books and balance by the bank. They don't match.
What do you mean they don't match?
Well, if I'm looking at the balance, one
You
column.
mean you're saying the first balance?
I'm looking at the balance, 9.6 million, balanced by the books, and balanced by the bank, 9.5. So, do you know? I'm looking at. It's called the.
Oh, you're saying there. Okay, I need to understand which column you're because
This
the
balance.
adjusted book balances match.
Okay, so when we start on November 1st,
They will never match in the beginning ever.
why is that?
Where am I behind?
Outstanding
Those
checks.
checks, yeah.
Standing checks.
So,
So
Ma'am.
it's all about timing.
Madam
Yeah.
Chair.
So what I'm looking at though is I presume that both columns, balanced by the books and balanced by the bank, are both from November the 1st. They're not.
No, they are from November the 1st, but they will never balance in the beginning of the month, ever. The goal of bank reconciliations is to, your books always record the things you have done. Your bank records what has happened. Nobody writes a check and runs to the bank. And so your books will always say, this has already happened, and the bank is saying, not yet. That is actually the purpose of a bank reconciliation. So is that we are, so between the checks as well as our pensions. So our pensions come out of our books when they come out of your check. However, they don't come out of the bank for 30 days because of how the reporting happens.
Good to know.
So these are things, so they will never match.
Good to know. Thank you.
Ms. Stugstein, did Ms. Stevens not answer? Okay, perfect. Ms. Cureton, are you good with the reports now?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, now, I think Ms. Stevens not wants to tell us about that cleanup ordinance.
I do. So I want to, and I think me and you, Ms. Zorb, we kind of talked about this. I think it is important to set expectations appropriately, especially in the month of December. If we do not properly close things, then our ending fund balances and our beginning fund balances will be incorrect, and our cleanup ordinance will be for naught. So we have been expecting a cleanup ordinance in the month of December prior to all purchase orders that are open and have balances being investigated to see which ones we can close, and before all checks have cleared, making sure that it's not realistic. The purchase orders is a very important part. Every time I close a purchase order, the dollars that were encumbered go back onto the line item that they were encumbered from. If we do a cleanup ordinance with open purchase orders, then we're cleaning up something that possibly doesn't need to be cleaned up. So I'm asking for I don't know if it's a special meeting, Ms. Dixon didn't tell me which one but December won't be closed until third week of January. And that's aggressive, but we gonna make it happen. And so and I would also offer that the county knows that, because they allow us to operate under a provisional budget for the first quarter of the year, because they know that the fund balances that we have to put on our budget are inaccurate. And they say this has to be, make sure you get it done by the end of Q1 and let us know what your true beginning fund balances are.
So I just want to recap. Initially, I had said, and I had given Ms. Shiva Stevens not the timeline of getting it done by the first committee meeting in January. But as we looked at the process and looked at what the county aligns, that's kind of been some of our issues in the past. We've closed out those POs before the end of the year. Like, I remember the prior year, there was a big email mass to the department heads, close out any POs, any ones that we're not going to use. And we've done things prematurely, which has kind of created a narrative of why we've had some inconsistencies with our books. So in order to improve the process and have more efficiencies, we're going to take this route. And I'm hoping that would lead to better closes in the future. And I'm confident that it will lead to better closes in the future. And it'll also not be going into February futuristically. Even just the change, if you guys make it to put the budget and finance meeting at the end of the month, will enable us to go back to a 1 month lag as opposed to a 2 month lag. That helps tremendously. So I see some of the changes are kind of aligning with some of the problems that we faced in 2025 and also 24. So some things will fix themselves, but we are well within our time frame, according to Hamilton County, which is super important to us, that we keep deadlines to be closing out the books in this space. I understand that traditionally we have not done it that way, but we want to create pathways of efficiency and better books forward, and this is going to afford us to be able to do that.
Thank you, Ms. Dukestein. Ms. Stevens-Knott, I genuinely appreciate that explanation, because it is a completely different mindset from what we have done historically in this city and what everyone is accustomed to seeing. So I appreciate your explanation. But you did say something that really piqued my curiosity, and I'm wondering if you could go into a little bit more detail. I think I heard you say that the county you said something about a provisional budget for the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And I have never heard that term before. Can you elaborate on what that means to you and what should mean to me?
So the budget that we passed as a city was sent down to the county because it has to be in their hands by January 1.
Right.
If you remember the document, there is a number at the very beginning that says beginning fund balance.
Okay.
That number currently is not the same. When I sent it down, it was based on where we were at the time, based on 8 pages of open POs, based on things not having cleared yet. So once we close, then that becomes the true ending fund balances, i.e. the true beginning fund balances. We then have to send, I have to send down to her an updated budget with the correct beginning fund balances, and that align with our books. Because I don't just have to send her that budget, I also have to send her a report from our accounting system that matches.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And it's
Thank you.
the funny thing about it, it's on the, if you get the auditor, Ohio Auditor of State calendar, it's actually on the calendar.
It is.
Mm-hmm. It's a great calendar. You should get it. I love my calendar.
It's on the State of Ohio?
Mm-hmm. Keith Faber, I always say it's Keith Faber's website.
They always actually drop off extras. I can actually provide you all with
Mhm.
that so you can have that.
It has all the financial dates, all the reporting dates. It literally, for schools, villages, cities, it has it all in there. Townships. It's an amazing resource.
Good information. Thank you. All right. Any other questions about the cleanup ordinance? Going once? Going twice? All right.
Madam Chair, I just
yeah.
wanted to ask, this may or may not fall under the cleanup ordinance. I think it may. Is there a report? I looked for it and didn't see it, of all outstanding or even open POs.
There is a report. I would be remiss to provide that right now. I would prefer to provide it at the end of the year.
The end of 2026?
No, 2020. I mean, as an end of the year report, I wouldn't. The one right now is not
Accurate.
accurate. There was some transactions which have been reported on all year, so this isn't anything new. It's just there are some things that happened during the year that show up on that report that were in error. And actually, I'll give a case in point. There's a PO out there for one particular vendor that's going to put $100,000 back on a line item.
The porta potty.
Yes, yeah, it's going to put $100,000 back on that line item. Right now, if you look at that, that department, it's over encumbered. The moment I close that PO, it no longer is over encumbered, which means it doesn't need to be on the cleanup ordinance. Had I done the cleanup ordinance with that PO in place, then I would have moved money that we didn't need to move.
Noted. Thank you.
Gotcha. All right. Let's move on to old business.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Gaston.
I just wanted to ask, I have here, if we can get an update on the ARPA funds. I know that was something that we were debating a lot in 2024, 2024 and 2025. And there were a few deadlines. So where are we with the ARPA funds?
I am yet to figure out what we need to do.
Okay, so we did not send them back at the end of December of 2025?
Not
Perfect.
yet.
Okay. And we have until December of this year to,
Well, we had this till December of 31st to,
Of 2025.
yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're saying years and
So
year
I'm-
because we're talking about
I did
spans.
start so the electrical boxes on Galbraith Road were damaged, which is why we couldn't get the Christmas lights up this year. And that was based on the Galbraith Road project. They were damaged as consequently of repaving the road. So we're fixing those and we'll put those costs against that. I am hoping and that will qualify us from being able to keep those funds in-house, but I have not actually confirmed that just yet. So I did start some projects that would kind of wield working on projects that would not require us to send either all or some of the money back.
awesome. So we were able to reappropriate
Not,
that.
I don't know that. I can't confirm that just yet.
Okay, okay.
But I have put some things in place that I think fell in the wheelhouse after reading and researching. So I will, to be continued. I will
Thank
give it an update at a later date.
All righty.
All right. Any other old business?
I-
Yes, Ms. Curitan.
I just wanted to confirm, are you still, pardon me, sorry about that. Ms. Stevens, are you still updating Ohio checkbook?
It will be updated at the end of the year. You can either do it monthly, quarterly, yearly, annual. It's up to you. And so my goal is for it to be a quarterly update. So we will definitely get 2025 updated, and then it'll be on the cycle of a quarterly update.
Will you come back to this committee and let us know when you've updated it for, well, I'm going to presume.
I'm
You
just
said no.
kidding. I figured
sorry.
I'd start it. No, we'll go from there.
And then
And
another,
expectations. You're back
right, there we have it.
Why does your no go over easier than mine?
there. She took it back because you
Said it
reeled
with a
it in.
smile.
Oh, that's what I got to do.
And tomorrow's Founders Day for her, so.
And then one additional question I have for you is that, again, I'm looking for it in the packet and I don't see it. It could be due to my negligence or it not being there. Is there a list of all the grants that the city currently has that needs to be absorbed?
No, because there's only one,
Oh, okay.
Veterans Park.
the ARPA. Now-
No, we have some others.
We have some that are in the works because the police have done their ARPA, fire's done with their ARPA. We Thrive is absorbed.
Where?
It was it happened last year, so I mean,
Are you, Madam Chair,
Ms. 16.
are you referring to, so I understand how she answered the question, and I just want to clarify. So there are grant monies that we received in our checking account. And
oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I speak from money in the
Yes.
bank. I don't speak from
Speak
promise.
for-
She speaks from promises.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we
Because
speak from
have
two different places.
different vantage points of what we have to
Yeah.
look at. I look at what we need to spend. She looks at what we have to spend.
That's like
Right.
my husband.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I
So
think the
that's-
Veterans Park grant is a grant that has been awarded,
Yes.
but we haven't done our part to get it.
And I
So,
assume, Madam Chair.
yeah, that's an example of one. We've been awarded it. The dollars are there. We haven't done our part in order to, because it's a reimbursement grant. So you have to spend the money to get the money back. We haven't done our part yet for that.
And I assume that same position is for the We Thrive grant.
The We Thrive grant that I saw on our books, we had, when I came on, we had maybe about $1,800 left in it. And but again, this is what I'm seeing, but you also have to, one thing that I have reported on all year is it's what I can see in our books. And so what I'm seeing, it has been absorbed because what was the recycling is a part of and that bill kicked that grant down the street.
And we need to talk about that.
Yeah, that was disrespectful. Like, I need to call an artist and tell him come take our stuff and build something.
Ms. Dukestein, are you in agreement? Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Curtin.
Ms. Dukestein, are you in agreement that the We Thrive grant funding has fully been, or for the most part, been absorbed, and there's only about 1,800 left?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It was like 11.
Yes, it
$12,000?
was. Yes, it was. And I don't know that we knew it was. Did we know it was going to be that much?
Yes, that's why I said beforehand we would be doing a community survey, which Rumpke did do. And I know that there were some community constituents who complained that their leaves have not been picked up.
Yeah.
And so they came back and circled back and they included that in the data. It just isn't robust enough for us to have 3 leaf collection days. Maybe we need to do 1. Or we can talk about it in one of the other committees. But yes, that's why we needed to do it, because it was very expensive. I had no idea that it was that expensive.
Super expensive. It might be cheaper just to buy bags.
And if I could, just small interjection here, leaf collection is nice, but I will tell you that as a community, we need to be able to collect big things like couches, TVs. Those things might be a better way to utilize those funds so that we can have like cleanup and then maybe return back to leaf collection. So that people don't have an outlet. You collecting leaves and you're paying for them to collect leaves, but then their couch is still in their front yard. So I'd rather use that money to collect those things if we're going to do a cleanup for a community. So.
All right, sorry, Ms. Chichester.
I was just gonna add, I know they don't do a 20-bag pickup of Rumpke, but you can sit the bags out with your normal trash.
6.
Weekly.
6
Is it
bags.
6? I thought it was 8, because I took 8.
Yep.
Thank you, Rumpke. So yeah, you can do that weekly if
And
they
you
don't
could
do the
you
bag.
could do that weekly. What she's saying, like, so if you had 12 bags, you could set 6 out one week, 6 out another. It's not to say that they won't collect the leaves. You just have to be strategic in how you put them out, so that you can get them collected for those that rake leaves.
In
Or
my,
partner
in
with
my
you.
mind, the difference is, I hope they're recycling the leaves versus putting it all in the dump. Whether they
They
do or
are.
not, in my mind it does, but if you just put it out in your weekly, it's not, it's going in the dump.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Ms. Chichester.
Even if the leaves do go in, I'm not sure which one Rumpke does, but even if it did go to the landfill, it helps break down the waste. It's compost, so it naturally helps that backtrack
Yeah, it does.
function.
It does. Or you can partner with
My
your
mind
neighbor
is-
that doesn't rake leaves.
Madam
With
Chair.
6
All right,
there and
all
6
right,
there.
we beat up leaves. All right, we're gonna move on.
A
Yes,
cou-
Ms. Curtin.
Thank you so much. A couple of quick questions for you, Ms. Stevens-Knott. There were a couple of line items. I were not sure what they are for on the fund report.
Okay.
One is for the Down Payment Assistance Fund, Fund 206 for 8625.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other is for, where are we here? Well, I'll let you speak to that and then I'll ask about the other one is the City Center Fund for 149,000. Can you provide clarification? Are those reflective as, well, go ahead.
The down payment assistance fund is just that. And those, as it's in that fund, it is restricted income specifically for down payment assistance. So there would need to be some type of initiative around those dollars in order to be able to expend them. The City Center Fund, again, is another fund that was created, that I don't know what, I think this was for the water pad or something of that nature, because that's a negative. So this is money that was spent
Yes.
prior without being appropriated. So one thing about fund balances don't go away. They carry year to year to year to year. 2026, I will come back to the council and make a request to appropriate dollars out of the general fund into the City Center Fund in order to bring it to zero. Because there's no money coming to make that not be zero.
Madam
Make
Chair.
that not be negative.
Yes, Ms. 16.
Couple of things. Ms. Zorb, for historical value, you may remember when Marjorie, former council
Down payment
woman
assistant.
Marjorie Anderson was working on
Yep.
the funds, and we had gone over to planning, I think it was planning commission or CIC, to try to, remember, we had all those extensive conversations about dollars for host.
And then Mr. Dieter said we couldn't do it.
No. Mr. Dieters did not say, he did say
He
that.
said we couldn't do it the way it was written or something.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And
So that's why
then-
that money's still
and
sitting
then,
there.
well, no. We asked them to, would they house the money? And they said that to be able to distribute it, because we as a city couldn't. So that was how we got, when Mr. Dieter said we couldn't do it that way, our next point of resource for the city was to leverage our 501c3. And they said that they were part-time and they didn't want, that would create a full-time opportunity for them. But because we have such a housing disparity currently, we have been talking not necessarily about those funds, but we've been talking about generating said kind of grant to get new home buyers. So I think that they would be more open to doing it now than they were before, and they've also had a change of leadership. The other thing that I was going to say about that line item that Ms. Shiva Stevens is speaking to, remember, these documentations are our system. It's our paperwork. It's not our actual dollars. The dollars have been accounted for out of the bank account. They just have not cleared up that line item that is a paper trail that is connected to our audit and our state understanding where our money was spent. So we're not missing dollars when you see that negative 104. We are missing a paperwork ad to make sure that that line is clear.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Ms.
So
Kira.
thank you for explaining the down payment assistance fund. I am not clear on the City Center Fund.
Splash pad, spent money, didn't ask, put it in a bucket.
And that was before both myself and Ms. Stevens.
Good. Not to shift blame on
No, no,
anyone,
no. No,
but
no,
what
no.
I'm looking for is how are we going to remedy this?
I have to come back to the council and make a request that dollars be appropriated out of the general fund to that line item to bring it to zero.
Ms. Stevens, could we take care of that in that cleanup ordinance?
Yes.
No.
Oh, we cannot?
We can, we cannot take care of it in the cleanup ordinance because in order to move money from one fund to the next,
That's right, you gotta
I
talk to the
must
county.
go to the county. And moving money out of that fund for 2025, that information needed to be down to them before the end of the year. But we can do it Q1 of 2026. So it will be fixed in 2026.
Good, thank you.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I do have one old item.
Go ahead.
So I had reached out to you via email, and I was unclear as to what was needing to happen. It was on Ms. Clear's agenda, but I had also asked you to add it to yours. It literally was in the Budget and Finance Committee, and then it was tabled for council to go back and read the documents. And since then, it never was put back on the agenda. We've changed council, but this is something that's guided by the state. We need to put something in place for council spending. And so I personally, I know why you would consider putting it in rules and public policy, but it's around spending money. So it could also go in budget and finance, but it did not get heard on any agenda tonight.
So, Ms. Dukesney, I did speak to Ms. Clear about that, and she's gone now. But she even referenced in her agenda that it had been spoken about in rules. And so she was just it was on the agenda that I sent to her. So it had been talked about in rules and public policy. And since it's kind of a rule, it's just a rule about spending. So we were just going to keep it in rules. And I'm sure she'll
Well, I
address it
pushed
in
the
her next
documents.
meeting.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I did push it to Erica, and I
Yep.
pushed it to former
Yep.
chair. But the problem is, it hasn't been talked about, and we needed to have this implemented by 2026, because we started this in probably the beginning of Q4.
I wasn't aware of any kind of timeline for that. So we'll make sure, but I will talk to Ms. Clear and make sure that it is at the highest priority at her next meeting.
So how this protects you all and us is for auditing purposes. We are wanting to clean up some of those items on our management letter and present ourselves at the best possible space. And this policy is something that they want us to do. It is a request.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Gaston.
I remember
We
that.
talked at all tonight, so I forgot what your name was.
I'm offended. So I do remember that, and I remember actually the four of us had a touch base conversation about multiple things, and that was one of the things that we talked about. And at the time, it read as if it would go through clerk of council, the president of council. So were those changes made, or will that be made now in a different committee if we want to tweak that?
So you all should not be approving things for yourselves.
Correct.
Which is why you want to reroute it to the clerk.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you guys, where I remember it leaving off is that you were reading through it and making a decision about it, and then it was being placed back on the agenda, but it never, the responsibility, it was in your wheelhouse, I should say.
Understood. Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to regurgitate the memory in my head. I almost thought it sounded like the clerk was approving other
Correct.
spending even more than council. But I'll have to look at it again because I'm foggy on the details right now.
Madam Chair.
The clerk would, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say that I have written notes, and I can forward that to the new chair so that she sees where we kind of left off, since this is a new council, and kind of go from there. And let them-
Does everyone, Ms. Cureton, do you have the,
Yes, Madam Chair,
I want to make sure everyone has the document before we move on.
I do, yes.
Okay, and Ms. Chichester, you are the former chair, so I'm sure you do. And Ms. Gaston, do you?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect.
I
All
have
right.
it right here.
Okay, yes. Ms.
So
Cureton.
bullet point number 2 does state that requests must be approved by the president of council before any purchase is authorized.
I appreciate that. I don't want to get into the weeds of that
Okay,
yet because
yeah,
it's,
sure.
I want the rules and public policy
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
to address this. Thank you. Okay, do we have any, do we have any other old business then? She can't help it. Do we have any new business?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Chichester.
I just would like to be mindful of Ms. Stevens-Knott's time, and I was wondering if would it be beneficial to move her reports to the top of the agenda?
Mm-hmm.
Because she's had a long workday.
And in the future, we can, yes. This is more like housekeeping kind of stuff. I think most of the committees did tonight, kind of setting the stage and what we wanted to do. And actually, I was looking to see if she had any goals for us for the new year. So,
That expenditure rule.
That's a really big one. That is a really big one. I think once I'll say this, Ms. Cureton, I heard you and your goals, and I would have to tell you that I would believe that we are, and don't quote me on this, but like we're pretty much aligned. My whole story for the past year has been about accountability. If you've read any of my posts in the newsletter, it's about transparency, accountability, but my number one word is compliance. I worked for the citizens of North College Hill, and I also work for a auditor of state who has absolutely no problem putting people in jail. So my desire is to make sure that we as a city, not only do we get an amazing audit going in a couple of years because we're coming out of someone else's work, but my goal is to make sure that when we do our audit for 2025, 2026, that it's a new city, that it's like everything that they have told us that we should have been doing for the past 4 years that we have implemented. The roadmap is there. We just have to follow it.
That is great news to hear.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Stussy?
I just also want to say, with the audit, some things we're dividing and conquer because some things fall under the administrative wheelhouse and then others fall under the financial manager space. And so I am always trying to put us in the best situation possible. I understand that there are some spaces where I don't govern. Like, for example, you all get to approve your own expenditures, but we are responsible for making sure that there is a process in place because that's the feedback that we're getting for the audit. So if I'm requesting something, I don't mind giving those explanations so that we have, like you said, Ms. Kirton said, we have to work together. And when I look at it, I'm like, okay, what is the best thing possible to keep you guys in compliance? Ms. Shiva Stevens-Knott and I are talking about what the state requires and what compliances look like. And so there may be a slight stretch in some of those spaces, but only because we want to invite the auditors in and they be able to look at our stuff and say, North College Hill has it together. That comes down to paperwork, certifications, whether it's on your side, our side. That's why some of the stuff is in place. I don't mind explaining that if that puts you at ease and it takes some of the shoulder work off of you all and it puts it all in one place. And it's like they have their stuff together. I really want that space of approval.
Yeah, that's our 2026 goal. That's it, in a nutshell.
Yeah.
We have our all in a pile. All right, new business. Going once, going twice? All right, we will adjourn. It is 8:45 PM and we are adjourned.